Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling one of the biggest questions any UK property investor has to face. Should you buy a rental property in your own name, or should you use a limited company? Now, this isn't just a simple box-ticking exercise. This one decision can have huge consequences for your taxes, your personal risk, and really your entire journey as an investor. All right, so picture this. You've done all the hard work, you've scoured the market, and you've found the perfect property with great rental potential. But hang on a second. Before you sign anything, you have to answer this one massive question. How are you actually going to own this thing? Because how you answer that is going to set the stage for everything that comes next. Okay, so let's kick things off by looking at the first option. This is the traditional route. The one that's been around forever. It's probably the most familiar, and it's where most people start their landlord's journey. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You just buy the property in your own name, just like you would your own home. It feels simple, right? It's easy to get your head around, there's not much setup involved, and it seems like the most direct way to become a landlord. But, and this is a really big but, that simplicity comes with a pretty scary risk, because there is no legal separation between you and the property. If the investment gets into financial trouble, guess what's on the line? Yep, your personal assets. We're talking your family home, your savings. It could all be exposed. So that major risk we just talked about, that's a huge deal, and it's precisely why a completely different approach has become so popular in recent years. So let's get into the modern solution that many savvy investors are now using, the SPV. So what on earth is an SPV? I know, the name Special Purpose Vehicle sounds super technical, maybe even a little intimidating. But honestly, the idea behind it is incredibly simple. It's just a limited company that you set up for one specific job: to buy, hold, and manage your property investments. That's its only purpose. Yeah, a really great way to think about it is as a protective container or maybe a financial firewall. The SPV holds all the property assets, the mortgage, the rental income, and it keeps all of that completely separate from your personal finances. All right, so we get the whole protective container idea, but why go to all the trouble? What are the real tangible benefits? Let's dive into the key reasons why so many landlords are now going down this route. It really boils down to 4 huge advantages. The first one, which is arguably the most important, is that it shields your personal assets. But on top of that, it also makes it easier to team up and pool money with other investors. It can offer some seriously good tax advantages, and it can even simplify things down the line when you want to sell or pass on the portfolio. And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. Think about what this actually means. If the absolute worst happens, say the market crashes or you have a long-term vacancy and the property business fails, the financial damage stops right there. It's contained within the company. This legal firewall is what keeps your home and your personal savings safe. And that peace of mind, that's a massive deal for investors. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty now. We're going to put these 2 options side by side and compare them on the 3 things that are going to have the biggest impact on your wallet and your time: tax, mortgages, and all that admin. Now, this is where things get really, really interesting. As a personal owner, any rental profit you make is just added on top of your salary. That can easily push you into a higher income tax bracket, meaning you could be paying 40 or even 45% of that profit straight to the tax man. Ouch! But inside an SPV, the profit is subject to corporation tax instead, which is a much lower flat rate, currently between 19 and 25%. And this right here, this is an absolute game changer that has really tipped the scales. For personal landlords, you can't deduct your full mortgage interest from your profits before calculating tax anymore, but an SPV, because it's a business, can. It can treat the entire mortgage interest as a legitimate business expense, which means you're taxed on a much smaller profit. The difference this can make to the actual cash in your pocket is just enormous. Of course, it's not all sunshine and roses. There's always a trade-off, right? And here it is: mortgages. Lenders tend to see a new company as a little bit riskier than an established individual. So what does that usually mean? It often translates to slightly higher interest rates and bigger setup fees than you'd get for a personal buy-to-let mortgage. So what does it cost to get all these benefits? You might be thinking, setting up a whole company sounds expensive, but check this out. The actual fee to incorporate an SPV online with Companies House can be as low as £50. That's it. It is a surprisingly low barrier to entry. But, and you knew there had to be a but, that little setup fee is just the very beginning. Running a limited company comes with serious legal duties. We're talking keeping meticulous records, filing formal accounts every year. It's a significant step up in admin, and it's why most people with an SPV will need to budget for an accountant. So, we've laid it all out. The protection and the tax benefits of an SPV on one side versus the pure simplicity of owning a property personally on the other. How do you actually decide which path is the right one for you? This table is basically the perfect cheat sheet. It sums everything up at a glance. You can see the trade-offs crystal clear. With an SPV, you get a big win on liability and on the tax rate. But with personal ownership, you win on simplicity. The admin is way, way lower. This right here is the core dilemma, and it points directly to the best use case you see on that bottom row. Look, if you're just starting out, maybe buying your very first rental property, and especially if you're a basic rate taxpayer, the simplicity of personal ownership can absolutely be the right call. The extra hassle and cost of setting up a company might just not be worth it yet. However, the moment you start thinking about property number 2 or number 3, the whole calculation changes. Suddenly, that asset protection isn't just a nice to have, it's essential. And the tax efficiencies really start to multiply, making the SPV a very shrewd, strategic decision for anyone who's serious about building long-term wealth through property. So ultimately, the whole decision comes down to this one final question. Is your strategy built just for today, for this one property, or are you laying the foundation for the portfolio you want to be running in 5 or 10 years' time? Your answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know.